It also says press G.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ah.
Oh, so it did
look at
fix
that.
it up. Okay, anyway.
Wait, this is incredible. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Feature Crew. Today we're going to be looking at the newest release from OpenAI, which is 4.0 plus Canvas, which is sort of their chat plus pages experience for editing documents and code. Our last video that we put out last week goes over the pages editing experience, so we're going to assume that you know how the feature works, and then we're really going to focus in on the sort of coding experience today. So check out that video if you haven't already. Let's dive right in.
So here we are, we're now in the Canvas. So I luckily got access, so you can see at the top we've got ChatGPT 4.0 with Canvas. So this is Chris's first time seeing the UX, so it'll be interesting when we dive into it.
Super excited to take a look at it.
What we're going to do is we're going to start by having it just create a HTML file. So here we use something called Serverville as a basic game. It's kind of like Farmville, but for GPU farms. So we just have a real basic prompt here. We're going to make a web client based game. As I said, it's just like Farmville, but we call it Serverville. We're trying to make it very simple and just make it a one HTML file. And we're using the kind of keywords to display this in Canvas. From a bit of earlier testing, we found that sometimes it doesn't immediately pull into Canvas, but as soon as you say put this in Canvas, it's great. So you can see it's already gone ahead and it's starting to do its own code, and it's already pulled up Canvas mode. So just like in Docs mode, you can see that it just references everything. We have a button down here that allows us to run some kind of defined functions, but you can continue discussing or chatting with it in the chat pane. I think you can also highlight and ask ChatGPT as well. So we'll try all these different modes and see how it does. Yeah, and for now, I'm just going to quickly copy paste it into Visual Studio Code. So I've gone ahead and copied this code. Unfortunately, there's no file preview. So we kind of have to manually bring it out of ChatGPT and then run it in our browser to be able to see it. So maybe that would be a massive UX improvement in the future if you kind of have it running in the browser. Here we are. It made something. Again, we're not testing its coding ability. I wonder if I can click. I can't click to place a GPU. So this is a great starting point because now we can kind of work with it and see how it kind of changes everything in the canvas. So the first thing I want to ask is that we're unable to click anything. So we'll ask it just in the chat pane to go ahead and fix this. And then we can try the UX elements where it says fix bugs and do a code review. So we'll see how those differ. So off the bat, I've just asked, I'm unable to click to place a GPU. Can you fix that? You can see that the way it works right now is it looks like it's kind of individual line by line going through to re-update the file. So as files get big, that will take quite a while. But that's probably, again, just a V1 sort of thing. They're probably doing that so you can actually see the changes as well.
And I'm guessing what they're doing here is behind the scenes, rewriting the whole file. So the prompting going on behind the scenes is probably something like, here was the last file, here's the feedback from the user, rewrite the file and incorporate the feedback.
Yeah. And worth calling out, we do have still this previous version and latest version. So again, like the docs, we don't quite have diffing yet, but it's amazing that they do have this. You can go back to restore this version, you can go back to the latest version. And this is great, as we talked about in our previous video. As you become, you use this as in a professional capacity, you need that. You can't just trust the LLM. Right. You want to be able to verify. So I think this is awesome. Chris, do you have any feedback on that? Because that's probably your first time seeing versioning.
Well, I love the idea of it. I mean, because it's always been one of these problems with one-shotting or completely rewriting the file is how do I go back if it totally took a divergent direction? It can be very hard to get it to go back to a previous state with prompting, so that's awesome. This strikes me as a more general audience version of something we saw with Replit. I think if you're a dev, Replit makes a ton of sense because it's bunching it into commits and saying, cool, we solved this problem, we have a commit. And here we're just abstracting generally to versions. It's all versions, and you can go back version by version, which probably means they can be coherent with written docs as well as code. I wonder if you'll see in the future as these tools become more professional and adapted to enterprise or whatever else, seeing a splitting of the terms, but I love the unity right now.
And then let's see what it did in between. So this time I do have enough money. I think it should. No. It doesn't seem like it's fixing at all. So unfortunately, it still looks like we're unable to click. But however, We're not testing its coding ability. So we're going to continue on and just have a look at how it does with, for example, fixing bugs or adding code review. So let's go ahead and first of all run fix bugs. I'm interested if it figures out what's wrong. So obviously I haven't really read the code. It's probably just a small bug. So it's already trying to fix some stuff, it looks like. I saw a few different lines.
Yeah.
So it says, I've reviewed the code and found a potential bug where multiple GPUs could be placed at the same grid location. I added a check to prevent this. Let me know if you need any further changes or improvement. So already pretty awesome that it's theoretically able to fix things. And again, maybe if we give it a predefined file, it would work better, especially as we start doing these, fix bugs and code review.
I think the problem with something like this is that that was basically the same thing happened as when you provided feedback before, right?
Yeah.
And it just rewrote the file, except when you clicked the bugs one, you didn't get to prompt. The prompt was selected for you, and it was very general. It was like fix the bugs, whereas your prompt was something more specific, fix this specific issue. It wasn't quite able to. But it shows that they're still relying on chat for some things here, and some of the buttons aren't as impressive. But maybe we should look at some of the buttons with like new UX.
Yeah. So for example, let's try code review. So code review should theoretically, just like in doc mode, there you go. It will kind of run through agentically, and it's going to say, hey, like here's a comment or here's a suggestion, and can you go ahead and do this?
So UX-wise, I think this is great. I think it's a challenge that a lot of the AI tools are facing and will continue to face is often you want to surface AI suggestions on the content in question, whether you're writing a document, whether you're writing code, whether you're making a presentation. You want it to be able to annotate and comment. This is sort of an evolution of commenting that you've seen in apps in general. Like if you're in Figma and you comment, you get this Z-depth sort of idea that it sits above the content. I think that makes a ton of sense. Lets you accept things individually, which is great. Having it aligned to the content and sort of following your natural scroll through it makes a ton of sense to me.
Absolutely. Good call outs. Again, calling out that we really are seeing them make UX that is looking towards an agentic future, right? Where this could run for ages and it could have if this ran and I came back 10 minutes later and it's like, hey, keeping the human in the loop, do you want me to go do these things? That would be fantastic. Right now we have like a 100-line HTML file, very trivial. But imagine you have like a 10,000 line code base.
Do we have a guess on what happens when you hit apply? Are they still rewriting the whole file? So when we saw it go through after you put a prompt in, they're rewriting the whole file.
Yeah, so it rewrites the whole file still now.
Okay, it's all the whole file still.
Yeah. Yep. So it would still probably be doing like a ChatGPT call, as Jacob theorized. Like, do you see how it was just this? It was talking about the update function, whatever. Like, it's just going to be around here. Like, it changed the for loop to just a normal for, not a for each. But it still had to go rewrite the entire thing.
This feels a little disappointing, coming from Replit. Like coming from a Replit world where I would see it edit multiple files. I would see it seemingly be able to make more specific things. I think Replit's hiding it with the files, right? It's still regenning the whole file. But like the first time I saw it go line by line, I was like, "Oh, that's cool. It's looking over it." And then when it's doing it for every prompt, I'm like, checking my watch. All right, can we get through real quick?
What I will say is that Replit often gets stuff wrong and breaks stuff, though, right? So until something like Replit is really trustworthy, there is some benefit to be like in terms of like actually getting a useful output out of the thing. Replit, you're like rolling the dice kind of, and here it's almost like the comments are meeting you and the AI at your level, like meeting the AI where it can actually provide, because you like in the future you could extend this to provide document level context or comments.
Yep.
But
I agree with that. Can it go the other way? Right? I was so naive. I don't know this interface yet. Can it go the other way? Like if you highlighted the draw grid function, can you comment on it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do something like for draw UI, we can go ask ChatGPT and we can go make this more visually appealing.
So that's awesome. That's really cool.
So this here you can then say asked, and another call out just to make it really clear. There's a great set of, like keywords and what it's been doing in the chat pane, almost like a bit of a history thing. So here you're saying asked, again, they're probably thinking about how you best display this. Like it might be cool if you could click this and it'll be like, oh, you highlighted these lines and maybe this was the previous version you had. I think they're trying to find that balance between giving you useful information and not overloading the user. Cool, so we just reloaded it to double check, and there you go. It has made it at least a little bit more visually appealing. It also says press G.
Yeah.
Oh. So it did fix it up. Okay, anyway. So
Wait, this is incredible.
we did a few interactions, and it certainly fixed it up. So now throughout, it's kind of changed how it works, and it definitely, the last comment we just did, it certainly made it more visually appealing in my opinion, and it's obviously fixed the clicks. So that's great.
This might be the all things considered the best version of Serverville yet.
Yeah.
Like I want to see its ability to, like, if we break it and like purposefully add an issue and then use the comments things.
What we're going to do is we're going to break it so you have no money to start, and we're also going to remove basically the keyword window, so the event listener, which is the hook to be able to respond with the JS, is now broken. So I'm now going to ask it to look over this for bugs and add comments suggesting how to fix it. So hopefully it adds comments like this. I don't know if we have to, let's see, user-friendly UI elements, like a pop-up on screen. So at the very least, it has gone through and picked up on some other bugs. It didn't really pick up on what we expected it to fix, like obviously. To be fair, this one, it could expect that money equals zero is an intended thing. But I'm surprised it didn't pick up on this. It's been a while since I've done vanilla JS, but maybe it finds that valid.
Maybe give it we should say what would happen, what would we expect to happen if this was the case, to see if we kind of direct it towards a bug, will it be able to find it?
The G key, nothing happened. Like I said, adding especially the canvas element to avoid pinch focus. There you go. So it did pick that up. Giving it the context, that is correct. So now if we go ahead and click apply, it can do either the canvas or the window element. So,
and then I think this shows kind of the power of this comment thing. It's it's partially it's the user experience of having the comment and being able to easily apply, but partially it's like giving the system the ability to reason a little bit better over the different parts of code and where do I want to make changes, and in this phase I'm actually just going to think and leave comments and I'm not making any changes yet, and sort of this is something that agents do behind the scenes, and there are papers that show it yields better outputs. Putting the human in the loop in this process, I think that it will be beneficial for the human and the AI, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting in the future when we can have different models with different think and compute time, right? Like it might be very easy to skim over and be like, that's easy. But if you say something more broad of improve this or make this substantially better, then you might want a thinking model that takes a minute, right? Because if it's hey, I'm doing a complete rewrite, let me think for 10 minutes, happy. But if the G key doesn't work, I want you to immediately skim through and it did be hey, highlighting where the G key's pressed, I know the bug must be here, and then apply a try still fix. So I wonder, this is again probably a much easily solved problem in the future, but right now it's great that we're starting to see the elements fall into place. There's a very clear roadmap here of getting to an agentic world, and that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah. So I think this is overall, I think it's basically last week we said this might be the best writing assistant. It's not the same conclusion for me on the coding assistant side because it doesn't have previews. It doesn't have any of those agentic capabilities we see in Replit. But what is really cool is to see some of this UX and some of this human in the loop in the middle of sort of chain of thought and interesting document grounding. People are going to be taking notes, and we're going to continue to see these features in ChatGPT get better, and we're going to continue to see competitors pick up on these features. And I think part of the reason we did 2 videos on this and split it up is because I think this feature is actually a big deal, and we're going to see it kind of ripple for the next couple of months.
Totally agree. I would say check out other videos on Replit agents, Cursor. There's been a lot of tooling in this space, and as Jacob suggested, I think they've done some elements better. I think this has introduced more novel and better ways of interacting in the future, but it's missing some of the pro features you'd come to expect when you're in the coding sort of space. So I agree. This is good, not excellent, whereas the document editor we were kind of blown away. We were very impressed at what they shipped for free immediately. So not to say that this is bad, just they have a few features compared to competition, exactly. And the catch-up game, you can totally see where it goes, right? And there is this thing of they're different products. This is not Cursor, this is not Replit Agents, which is made to be a development platform. This is ChatGPT, which you can do anything. It's like a broad tool set as opposed to very specific. So we have to kind of weigh it up on that. So from a coding perspective, it is certainly useful. Sorry?
It's these glimpses at where do you expect you'll need a novel interface, right? Like I think there's been a lot of tension in the AI market of like, okay, cool, if we just have this rockstar foundation model, what's startups' roles in this? What's a differentiator between companies? And this is starting to point that like the interface does matter. We're moving beyond the chat pane, thank God, and we're starting to see where UIs that are focused on verticals and specific verticals can yield better outcomes, can yield more intuitive ways for the users to work, but are more rigid. And I think, Dylan, to your point, they're trying to walk this fine line of a general use tool that touches on a lot of the things that specific vertical use tools are. And that's always been kind of the OpenAI dance. Is we know we're making the foundation model, so how much product should we build on top of that versus just hoping folks use our API and put their UI in front of it? And seems like our conclusion is document editing, these sort of these nice touches they're adding really work. Maybe programming becomes such a specific use case that folks like Cursor or Replit are on a better track there, being really deep into some UI solutions that are minutely focused on code editing.
So yeah, definitely check out our video on the Canvas mode just for text editing if you haven't yet. Check out our other videos about Cursor and Replit on the channel. And just, as always, let us know what kind of content you want us to make, what products should we be looking at, what AI should we be testing. And if you enjoyed, give us a like. And if you want to stay along for the journey, please subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow in this early state. Thank you so much for watching, everyone.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.